session for the trustee special meeting for the purpose of work session, approve 7/19/2022 minutes, and review, discuss, and decide on new website changes with proximity marketing. All are here. We've got Asherle here, Swedick, here. Augustine, Sergeant Stroll, Superintendent Bahari. We don't have Tom Wilson today, but we have Suzanne Peterlin and Lynn. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so at this time, I just want to kind of jump right into those 7/19 meeting minutes. I don't know if you have them in front of you. I had some changes to that I had wanted to request the board to look at. Just let me know when you guys are ready.
Special or regular?
The regular meeting minutes.
I'm good.
Okay. And you got it too, Jack? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay, so on page 1, says at the last paragraph of police, it says that Chief Setner replied that he had the Boy Scouts gather the flags for proper disposal. And actually, I had made the arrangements for that. So I put in Miss Augustine and made arrangements for the Boy Scouts to gather the flags for proper disposal. I think Chief Setner actually came in virtually that day and didn't even talk to us, but to acknowledge that he could hear us before we started.
Well, he didn't say he did it. He just said the Boy Scouts will be gathering them.
We still have those, by the way.
I'm working on it. He's going to come get them. Say that one more time. I didn't hear you.
I said Chief did not say he had arranged it. He just replied that the Boy Scouts will be gathering them.
That's fine. We'll leave it as is.
So no change.
No change. Page 3 at the top, the Kimball opt-out letter has been drafted and will be mailed in September with minor changes. And I added in, Miss Augustine suggested that any residents who are delinquent be called and informed of their status, as was done last year. I also then changed the next line, delinquent residents should pay their Kimball bills by September 1st, 2022 to avoid property tax assessment.
As I don't know, I don't remember word for word. I know I had said that Lynn was calling and to pay the bills by September 1st. I don't remember the word for word. But I know you had asked me if Lynn was calling, and I said, yes, she was.
Okay, so what would you like to put there?
I mean, honestly, I'm fine. I'm fine with how it reads.
Jack?
And what it says are pay up.
That's fine. Last paragraph of page 3. And there was this one. I'm confused as to how it was written. It says the trustees discussed a recommendation by the Medina County Planning Commission to include a stub street within the proposed 72-acre 27 sublot Stony Hill development. I had stated that I had included comments into the against the stub in the to the Planning Commission, citing the comprehensive plan, and there was no recommendation from the Planning Commission to make a resolution. That was my recommendation. So I put in, Miss Augustine stated that she included comments against the stub to the Planning Commission, citing the comprehensive plan. She recommended a motion to the effect, and I crossed out, if the trustees do not support a substreet, the MCPC is requesting the township make a resolution indicating their preference. And I kept, after a brief discussion, all three trustees indicated a preference, and I added in not to allow for a stub. It had nothing, the cul-de-sac was something we mentioned in the resolution, but it was specific to the stub. The cul-de-sac had already been handled with the previous board in 2020. Do you agree to those changes?
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with those.
Okay, thank you. On page
Well,
4,
is the resolution correct then, where it
The
says
resolution.
maintains cul-de-sac?
yes, the resolution is correct because what it did was it overlapped the 2020 resolution with the new resolution. So it was perfect. On page 4, second paragraph, I just added that in that resolution, because that was something that we did say when we were adopting the zoning fee schedule. At the end of it, where it says the draft copy from $800 for a PUD submission to $1,000 per PUD submission, I put comma effective in 30 days. That was something that we stated during that resolution.
Okay.
And 2 more paragraphs down, when we were discussing the OHM memorandum and comprehensive plan audit. I had indicated that I spoke with legal counsel, OHM planning and zoning experts. I wanted to add in OHM planning there. And I also added to the end of that sentence, it would read, OHM planning and zoning experts throughout Medina County and feels this document should be added to the 2015 comprehensive plan to support future adaptations of the zoning resolution while offering legal justification for the zoning commission. And I added that I had also made a suggestion to create a letter from the trustees to coincide with the new documents. Do you agree to those changes?
If that was what's stated, I'm fine with that.
Trustee Asherle?
That's fine. I mean, I don't feel the need to go word for word in these meeting minutes, to be very honest with you, because it's supposed to be a summary. It's supposed to be the Cliff Notes. So that's fine if that's what you want to add in there. I mean, then there was other things added by Jack and myself also, like that. I felt
this is the great.
I felt that, which we discussed at the last meeting, which I haven't seen those meeting minutes yet, that by adding conflicting information was going to make the township more vulnerable.
Okay, do you want to add that somewhere?
Sure, we can add that.
Where would you like to add that?
You can add it in, after. You can add it in that last paragraph on that discussion.
Where it says Ms. Asherle replied she has given this a lot of thought and is
Sure.
concerned that including the survey results as an addendum to the 2015 plan will increase the township's vulnerability to developers, giving them an opportunity to pick and choose what documents they want to use.
And then you can add in conflicting. I feel that conflicting information should not be in the comprehensive plan. And I can't remember my exact words that I used, but I know it was along those lines.
And it should be its own separate document would be the rest of that sentence.
Yep.
Okay, so the way I have it now reads, she feels that conflicting information should not be in the comprehensive plan and it should be its own separate document.
Perfect.
And do you agree to that, Jack?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so the next section, the last paragraph on page 4, Ms. Augustine discussed a request from the Brooklyn Exchange. Right now it says the owners of the cabin did, and owners of the cabin are actually the Metro Parks. The Brooklyn Exchange Cabin Club The Brooklyn Exchange Cabin didn't remake the request, the club did. So I just clarified that because, like I said, the Brooklyn Exchange Cabin is owned by the Metro Parks. Do you agree to those changes?
Okay.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. And that is all I had.
Second as amended.
Does anyone have anything else?
I do not.
Okay, we'll have to do a brand new motion because I rescinded the last motion.
Okay.
So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 7/19/2022 trustee regular meeting minutes with the adaptations suggested today.
Second.
Seconded by Asherle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you for that. I appreciate your work on it. And we have Proximity with us here today as our special guest.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We are great.
It's good to see you in person. Not a virtual meeting.
Do you have something that you want to share, I imagine, virtually?
Yeah, I'm not sure how we'd cast this or what we'd like to do.
I can have you just log into our Zoom,
Okay,
which is on the website. I'm assuming you're hooked up to the internet.
I am.
Perfect.
Yes. Let's see. So that Zoom information is where? Melissa, where is the Zoom information?
So if
below.
you
I
go
see
to
it.
the first page, the home page, there's a lot of red writing.
I got it.
It's right up at the top.
Yeah. Got it. Mm-hmm. Chairs are like recliners.
I know I read them, but I can't even remember what they said. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I know I read because I was reading one set last night. My eyes were starting to go cross-eyed. It's been a lot of emails.
And as soon as we see you in there, I'm imagining Lisa will let you in. Let's see if I'm,
Yeah, I'm logged in now.
or I can let you in. Oh,
Thank
I
you.
see you.
Turn my volume down. Okay. There we go. Thank you. I will. If I could share my screen, if somebody will give me permission, I could certainly.
I'm gonna make you a host.
Great, thank you.
Lisa
Okay.
beat me to it.
Oh, thank you.
It looks fantastic.
Doesn't it look
Great job. Yeah.
You'll notice a slight grading in color.
I can't believe you couldn't find a Zoom link.
It's right there. Yeah. So just as a starting point, this is what the current site looks like. And we were charged with, I guess, a handful of things, developing a site that was built on the WordPress platform, which is enables everybody here to have be trained to make easy updates to the site. This does not rely on somebody they have to hard code and be a programmer, et cetera. WordPress is a pretty common content management system. We use it almost exclusively with our clients, but it allows us to have a structure that's easy to build, create some efficiencies in the way that we can deliver a website to you. Organize the content in a way that I think is easy for residents to find what they need. And then thirdly, just present a better brand impression for the township of Hinckley. I think we'd agree this is a little bit dated at this point, and putting our best foot forward, I think, is best for the overall community. So this is really a check-in point, and I will say that undoubtedly there will be things that we'll see that are funky. So for example, in the original layout here, the Hinckley Township will be up to the right of the flag. There are certain things that I think will be need to be fixed at launch. This is really a test environment. So when we go live with the actual theme of the website, some of these things that seem wonky will be fixed. So let's just, we can examine it, note the things that we see as odd or whatever.
And I don't want to interrupt you constantly, but I just want to interrupt here because
Yes.
I know that Suzanne and Lynn, we had talked about this also, having Medina County on there. We actually decided to remove it last week because it was, the top line was Hinckley Township, Medina, and then County, Ohio was underneath it, and it didn't look right. And Renee said we could not get Medina County on the same line underneath Hinckley. So that's why we went to Hinckley Township, Ohio.
So one of the things I think is part of this process is to make sure that the site can be found when people are going into Google and other search engines. And I'll just note, if you see up here in the top left, that is, that's just a piece of code on the back end of the tag so that it helps Google understand when somebody's searching for something. It doesn't literally have to be on the site itself. It can be coding on the back end, search engine optimization. So that's that. So this process has really been a collaboration primarily with Renee from Proximity, who has been the point person on our team, and the folks from Hinckley with Monique and company. And it has been a pretty good process in terms of working through, let's have one major point of contact. Let's look at the things that need to be done. Let's work through what we want to have on the site, et cetera. So here's where we are. I feel like we're in a very good spot in terms of the design, the organization, and really porting over content, which was a major challenge of bringing stuff. There's been some things that have been there for quite a while. So I think we're in a spot where beyond what we see today. And again, today, I think really want to focus on what problems or errors do we see. What we don't want is, can we make the font a little bit bigger? Can we change the color? Can we change out the pictures? Those things you guys can decide collectively and feed back to us. I've been in groups, I think I said this when we first came out here, when we have a large group, what will happen is 3 or 4 different people will want one thing, when somebody else will want one other thing. You need to decide that collectively to keep us on budget and keep us on task of what you ultimately want to change. But we used pictures that I think the township provided. I don't know. We've taken some ourselves, but I think these ultimately are the ones that the township.
That's my first inkling. I love the picture of the Historical Society. It's absolutely stunning.
Good, great.
And I think these other pictures are beautiful and are an homage to our history, but they don't represent Hinckley to me. I would like to see the fire station, the police station, the service department, Veterans Memorial Park. I don't think that homes in Hinckley
Well, I think that's what Mark was saying, that we can look at these and discuss them after. But we're basically looking at structure here right now.
Yeah, so it's structure. And Melissa, to your point, some of this comes down to having the right size picture. So you'll note here, these are pretty wide photos. So we've got to make sure, you'll note when we jump to some different sections, I don't know if this is if this will give us that we've got really a band here where we're taking a photo and fading it in the background, and we've used a bunch of those. So some of those we could pull over, assuming that when we make it larger, that fits into the framework. So,
I mean, I'd be happy with it just being the Historical Society building and not being a slideshow. That's just my opinion. And I think that this is a good time because we made a special meeting to incorporate the decision-making process to have those conversations.
Does Mark have access to Dropbox?
The photos.
And we don't even have to do that in the meeting now. That's something that can be shared with everyone. We have added literally dozens of photos since these photos were initially put on here. And this was a sample of a website that I had sent to everyone initially that I really liked the slideshow. And that was something that we determined in our very first meeting with Proximity. We liked the slideshow as opposed to having just one photo, because those can be changed out whenever we want to. The pictures can be changed every season if we want to.
So I will point out this too, that the beauty of the way we've built this site is the site will never really actually ever be done, right? There's always stuff that needs to be updated, content, etc. when we do the training with you after the site is live, the ability to go in and swap out a photo, like let's say we get near Christmas and you want to have more of a winter shot, we can put that up there. If we need to add specific content. So for example, under the how do I section, we only have apply for a permit, but there may be other things. This will be something that will be ongoing in terms of the ability to change and update. So that is beautiful. You won't need us. We're certainly here if you need our help. But generally the whole point here is as a township, you should be able to update that. So just from a broad overview standpoint, we had agreed on navigation elements. Some were taken from the existing site. Some were some best practices or looking at other sites that we saw out there. Some that we were involved in, some other sites that I think you guys found and said, hey, we like these. So from a quick hit standpoint, under government, we have the primary governmental agencies, administrative, frequently asked question section, information on forms, township trustees, etc. Easy navigation to departments with fire, police, and roads and service, so people can get to that really with 1 or 2 clicks to get to that section. Those sections, I should say. Under communities, again, the things you'd expect to find, some of this is a carryover, but cemeteries, a directory, events, and we'll talk about the calendar here in a second. Much of this was ported over. I think generally we ported over
56 pages.
56 pages going back 2 years. Okay, in most cases, 1 to 2 years, depending on what the content was. And again, we could drill down to each of these pages. I just don't know to what degree we want to focus on the elements. But essentially, each section is meant to have a look and feel that is consistent, and then relevant information there with the person that would really be serving the area under the zoning commission, for example, and the processes for working through meetings, etc. The how do I think is something that we brought from another project we had. I just think it's sometimes residentially, people don't think of things from a departmental standpoint. So how do they do X, right? The idea here is there's multiple ways we as consumers of content think about looking for information. So this is really meant to be an easier, another way for people to get to possibly the same information, but just thinking about it differently. So we can chew on what that might be. I will just show you on the home page, going back to that for a second. We decided that there would be 5 icons that would make it easy for people to get to the areas that they wanted to pretty quickly. These were ones that really were township driven, with a little bit of guidance from us based on other things. So the typical things: zoning, forms and permitting, agendas, meeting minutes and YouTube, and then a special section for Kimball questions, because we understand that that's something that's a high traffic area. I will also tell you that we will have analytics on the site. So once the site is launched, we'll carry over. Melissa, I think you told me that there are analytics on the current site. So we'll just carry over that code. That way there's no loss of history. And the analytics tells you things like how many people are visiting the site every month, where are they coming from, what pages are they consuming. So we'll be able to say the most popular pages are X. Let people seem to be dropping off here. So maybe that's an indication that we need to do some correction on the experience because people have a challenge, etc. Let's see what else we have here. Township highlights. These can be changed out. You'll note that some of these are obviously up to date with zoning fee schedules, upcoming meetings, etc. Sorry. Township events. Do you want to talk a little bit, Renee, about the calendar?
Can I ask the question if you could scroll back?
Yeah.
So those three areas right there,
Mhm.
is that based on what we currently have on our website?
Yes.
So some of that information is redundant, and one of the things that I had mentioned at the very beginning is that I didn't want to have information shown in multiple areas because it's just extra work to create those separate articles, when in fact some of it can be found under Kimball or updated news and events and such. I don't think that we need to see a calendar plus upcoming meetings. They should just go to one area. Because otherwise we're entering in information multiple times and in multiple areas.
And I remember that discussion. And I think the goal here is some of this content may be redundant on the site. It may simply be pulling from the same spot. So ideally, you're putting it in one spot. It may just happen to be, if you're on the Kimball page, great. If you're on the main highlights page and it's pulling that from there, that's great too. If the issue is redundancy of content, we can remove these. If it's redundancy of doing work more than once, I think we're okay here. I think it's putting it in once. So that's.
I would disagree, but okay.
You would disagree that's what I'm asking you. If you're only putting it in once.
We're putting it in multiple times.
Currently,
Yes.
not on the updated.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm saying,
It's just pulling it from different areas,
that's right.
or pulling it from the same area.
The site's
Putting it in-
work of duplicating it.
Right.
You're not having to.
So
So you'll notice this comes down to how content can be tagged. Renee, do you want to update on the calendar function?
Yes, so we did purchase the plugin. We just need the API key that you guys have for your current calendar. And then once we get that, then we can make them connect and live.
So to convert
Do you have that, Suzanne?
No, I do not.
Brian?
Yeah, Brian probably will have it.
So a plugin is really a third-party tool that some are free, some you pay. Generally for a calendar, it ranges. We've bought a third-party plugin that will be a pre-made calendar that will help us display information, organize information, allow that to be segmented and tagged in ways that makes it easy for each part of the site itself.
Mark, do you have an example of what it's going to look like up there yet, or no?
We don't.
Okay.
Yeah. That really is about the only major thing that I think still needs to be installed. Everything else, I think, is at this point is specific content decisions or things like photos, etc. The newsletter is down in the footer. It is porting directly into the Constant Contact account. I don't know that we have direct access to that, but I think we verified that it is.
We just have the API key.
Okay. So
It's MailChimp.
yeah, it's dumping in the MailChimp, right? These are placeholders down here, I think, right now. I think.
I was just going to ask you about those because we don't have any of those. I mean, there's a Hinckley Township LinkedIn page, but I don't know, is it linked?
It's not in here now. This is just built into the
No, we
theme.
talked about not including any of that.
We don't have a Facebook or a Twitter.
Right, they said it's just there. It's just
We could-
holding
yeah, this
place
is-
right now. It's,
This is
And I understand that. I just don't want people to think that we have something and click on it and not go.
right,
through it.
no, I was
This
just answering.
this will not be put in the live version.
Okay.
This is just here as a discussion
You've got
point
zoning
of.
at the tippy top, and then you've got zoning as one of the icons up towards the top of the page. Do we feel that it needs to be both places? Is it offering different information at both of those places?
We felt it was a big enough thing that it would need to be in both places, but it's the same information. It's just a
Different way to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this, again, I'm worried with this picture, and I know you don't want to talk about pictures, but if we're promoting one business, we need to be promoting all businesses, which is not a government function. Can I see the police and fire and service
Sure.
sections?
Let's do fire and rescue first. Mhm. So contact information, address, logo, intro description, current access to the 2021 annual report. On the side, you have the relevant documents that you need here, staffing. I mean, I don't know if Melissa, you want to click on one of these or not, but let's just jump on equipment.
Do we have a picture? There it is. Okay.
Yeah. So this is obviously pictures of the trucks and the equipment and a list of what you're currently maintaining. Forms and requests are probably nothing surprising, just downloadable docs, whatever you would need.
On the tab for forms and permits, et cetera, do you have that categorized for each department? Or do you go to specific zoning, fire, police, et cetera? Or are they?
Well, here on this forms request, it's obviously specific to fire and
From the home.
fire and rescue. Oh, from the home.
From that home, no, we don't have any forms on there quite yet because we don't have all of
So
them.
my question is, are you going to
Can we
have
see police while you're
the
running through?
Sure.
categories
Thank you.
on that initial tab on the homepage that directs you to fires forms, zoning forms, police forms, administration forms, or do you just go into the department?
You go into the department that you're looking for.
You can, or you can click on the policy forms and permits button that we have, and it'll bring up all the different forms once we have them all.
In a category format?
We can do it in a category format.
And also the beauty of those buttons is they're on every single page. So you don't have to go back to the home screen.
Right, top here.
So there's no ability to do like a police report request or anything for police? I know that's something Chief Setner had questioned. He wanted the ability to do that.
We can, we just need the form to add it.
Okay.
Would that be something that you would want to see on the how do I?
Yep, you could do something like that.
I'm
Yep.
thinking that would be a very important thing to put up there. What do you think, Trustee Augustine?
I think that's a great idea. I think too, it should be with the police department. You know, I can't speak to how many report requests you receive, but that was something that Chief had.
Yeah, a fair amount, fairly often.
So
And then do you mind? Okay.
as I said, at the bottom, you have these two major icon buttons. So you could you can also have it here instead of these two down here. We could add a third or replace one of these.
Yeah.
You could have it on the left. You could certainly have it under again, you're putting it in one spot. You're just pointing it at a couple different places. So it could be under your how to file a police report. It could be under the police department section as well.
Mhm.
Can you add more than just those two tabs if they had other regulations they wanted to post?
Mhm.
And then have our department had seen this mock outside of this meeting?
No.
Sergeant Schroll?
Not that I'm aware of.
Service Superintendent Bahari? Just looking at the police department page, I know that there's information on there that's not current.
Right.
And then do you mind if we see service?
Not a problem.
Thank you. I appreciate you navigating for me.
Problem.
I'm a hands-on person.
Yeah, I get it.
Play with
I
a
get
little
it.
bit.
Yeah. So there's your content, ODOT, equipment list, responsibilities. Let's take a look at the roadmap, see what that looks like. So PDFs of the roadmap, the zoning. You want to see what it looks like?
Yeah.
Let's find out, huh?
Yeah,
There it is. My
Scanned in pretty good.
It's beautiful.
It's your life, Mike.
Yeah.
And then do you mind if we look at zoning? That's a great picture. Resolution's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm looking back and forth between my computer and the screen.
Well, I'm wondering do you have it to where I can look it up on the phone?
Yeah, when it loads, it will be mobile friendly as well.
But prior to, is there going to be?
Oh, can we try to look at it on mobile?
Can I try to look it on my phone?
Sure. Just go to this right here. If you can see that, let me see if I can zoom that in for you. Oh, it's only going to zoom in the image. So I can read it off to you if you want.
Is it .sg?
It's markp134.sg-host.com. The rest of this is just,
This site cannot be reached.
It might be a permissions thing.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't like me. Okay.
okay.
Just move on.
But that's actually a great point. When this site is launched, the intent obviously is you're going to have a lot of mobile users. That's just the way of the world. Everybody, these are the things we live by now. So we'll have to look at things like everything should automatically resize, but we'll look at, I'm going to guess, we're going to have our navigation, we'll have the image, and then below that, everything else. So we may want to look at, do we need the image on the mobile version? Because again, you want to get people to what they want pretty quickly. So,
Can you go to the meeting minutes and show how those are set up, please? And for Mr. Pearl and Cindy, the agendas are there. They've ported over.
yeah.
Thank you. I like how it's organized with the drop down with each month.
Yeah, so you'll be able to go back and see the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So they're PDFs. They're just uploaded. Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming the hours for town hall, because they vary each day in my neighborhood, people can kind of get mixed up as to when town hall is open up because the hours vary for different days. So if that's not in there, it would be helpful to put like the hours for town hall.
It's on the homepage at the bottom, isn't it?
I don't think it is, but that's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah, we could add that. Anything you add here in the footer carries over to every page. So regardless of what page people are on, things up top and things below will be carried over. So that's a great suggestion.
I was just glad the address was there. That was something people ask me all the time. What's the address?
Is it not on the?
It's not on the front.
It is.
It is now?
It wasn't on the old, but it is on the new. And I appreciate you putting such a simple thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Are we using the info at hinkleytwp.org?
No, that's going to be.
Well, we talked about just eliminating that one.
Sorry.
We talked about eliminating it, but
Because you said it's the admin at hinkleytwp.
we have to understand what the impact of eliminating the info at hinkleytwp.org is and the purpose of the admin at hinkleytwp.org before things are eliminated or changed. That's my personal opinion.
Right, but you said it's the admin that you get primarily the emails at.
From established organizations and Medina County agencies. That's the purpose of the admin. The info is for anybody who goes to our website and wants to solicit their information. Random people sending in questions about things that aren't as relevant. And a lot of that is carried through the spam, and we don't even usually see it because a lot of it is just advertisement. So there
Sure.
was a reason for establishing it.
But we had talked about, and I think it was at our last meeting, if I'm
We
correct,
talked about it,
that-
and we had mentioned that we would need to talk to Brian Latco for the purpose of why we established the two to begin with.
Right, because now that we're paying for them, do we need to have that extra one?
I would say yes, at $3.
Okay.
An email. I think it's relevant, my opinion.
Right, but that's from people going to the website. That's the only way they're getting that info.
Yeah, and they're not utilizing the admin from the website.
Right, because it's not listed. The info
Right,
one
it's
is
not-
listed.
It's not published on our website.
So you'll see basically, Melissa, is what's in the drop down under
I
zoning
mean, I know that it's a government agency.
ends up on the main zoning page on the left-hand side too.
That's what I wanted to see. Thank you.
From the
Mhm.
Can you go
website.
back to parks real
Admin is
fast?
more
Sure. Remember where I
personalized.
got to those.
Right, but they all get forwarded to Suzanne anyways, whether it's admin or info.
They do, yes.
But it
We're
would
really
be
testing your knowledge
I
of
don't
the
know
site
if
right now.
I know.
beneficial to have
Better
both
find it.
based on the content of the different inquiries.
Do you ever,
Just a thought.
do you ever link to a map for some of these? Because I'd imagine that some people may not be familiar where, for example, scroll down,
Or just an address.
like the
even.
Riverwoods Nature Preserve, that one says in it, yeah, either an address or a link to a map to know where these parks and locations
Yeah,
are at.
we could do that for sure. We just link to Google Maps. Open up another tab. Yeah, and also, if you want to put a picture here or picture of Riverwoods, et cetera, like we did here, that's a pretty easy add.
I don't know if this would be proper to add on or not. You guys would know more than I. But remember the time it was Hinckley Women's Club that someone was asking you, how do I get hold of such? I'm interested in Hinckley Women's Club, and no one from the Women's Club was picking up and answering. Is it proper to list the major organizations like Hinckley Women's Club, Ancient Order of Hibernians, that type of thing on the website? Like
It should go under community,
Yeah.
but that's my opinion.
We got your email this
Well,
morning.
yeah. I don't know.
We discussed that.
Yeah, that's a
We
thought.
discussed that about a month ago with, what do we want to have on that community page? And I was a proponent of having the nonprofit organizations on there. The board decided against it. I have since spoken to the prosecutor about it, and the prosecutor did confirm that if you do it for one, you have to do it for all. So it kind of opens Pandora's box with that. So we decided, I understand the argument. Lynn sent us an email last night saying why they should be on there. And I get it. I understand it. I agree with it to a certain extent, but then it's a good point that the prosecutor made. And I think Jack said it also is if you allow one, you have to allow all. So that's why we decided to just stick with government and, utilities.
Because like with the Hinckley Women's Club, we try to include, even a link with the Chamber of Commerce. And maybe the Chamber of Commerce might, if you had a link to the Chamber, maybe the Chamber then could list those organizations that would know they can't either. I get it. I do understand.
Well, it's up to the chamber if they want to do that, but
I
this,
do get it.
yeah. It was something that we discussed several times, and I agree. I'd love to see all of those entities under community, but
We
then,
prefer not to
Yeah,
promote
I do understand.
Hinckley Satan Club, I'm just.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you get, well, I own a nonprofit and I'm, just on the outskirts of Hinckley.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's-
It's a slippery slope.
Well, that word sounds familiar.
I know it's nothing that they wanted.
Hey, I had to put it out there.
I know.
So again, really the main thing, so just to confirm, we're going to take off all social media at the bottom. Unless you want to have the LinkedIn, I don't know if that is active or gets used by the township at all.
It's not used by the township, but it is established page that some of the personnel here are connected to. It's not, to my knowledge, no one in the township is running it.
then I suggest we don't put it on there.
Mhm.
I agree.
So really I think the main thing that is not on here is the calendar plugin, which I think we need some code from the township to be able to add it.
And before you go through, do you mind I think we've seen everything except for when we're looking at those 5 icons in the middle of the
Oh,
page.
yes, sorry. Yep.
Just so I can get a quick glimpse, I hope you don't mind, the policies, forms, and permits, and then the Kimball question.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, why are we separating the agenda from the meetings and minutes? Meeting minutes, I mean, and YouTube.
I'm curious about that too.
I was just curious, because I thought when we had discussed it initially, we had put all of it in one little button.
I mean, we could do a couple things. If you don't want this agenda function here, it can be removed and consolidated, or
We see it?
yeah, hang on, let me just show you this first. You'd asked about policy
I did
forms
see
and
that.
permits.
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it. You're being very gracious to us.
To Suzanne's point also on that policy and forms
Mhm.
page, since we're not going to have it, categorized, maybe if you put policies and put the links underneath the policies and then put the forms and then the forms underneath form, because right now I know they're just kind of
Okay.
blanket listed and we still haven't ported over several of them. So maybe if they're separated that way,
Right.
kind of like with a header for
So
each
Renee
one.
said they could categorize, correct?
Yeah, we'll categorize
Okay.
the forms, and then separate the policies from the forms.
Okay.
So I guess then the question really is from the button standpoint, do we want agenda, everything under agenda to fold into meeting minutes? Go back and look at that. We could.
I would almost put agendas with meeting minutes and separate forms and permits from policies. We have a lot of policies that could fill that page.
That's a good suggestion. Actually, I was thinking when I was looking at it with Renee last week, I'm like, I knew that we were missing quite a bit on this page so far.
Right.
And I think that's a good idea. If you separate the policies and do the forms and permits as one button,
Okay.
and then the policy as another, and then maybe agenda, meeting minutes, and YouTube,
Okay.
which that's a lot of words for one button, but there's going to be a lot of information on that tab. So
Stat would have stacked it, no problem. And then you wanted to see Kimball questions.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
I get the sense that's a hot topic.
It should just have Lynn's number there.
When you dial the township, you press number 1 for Kimball.
that's number one is Campbell. Nope, it's number one.
Number 1.
So obviously all Kimball information here, the site, their FAQ, email to their customer service, which I'm sure we should track that just to see how many
Yeah, I would like, that would be an interesting thing to see, how many actually,
click over to that.
I'd like to see our contract up there.
oh gosh. Are we opening up a can of worms by putting the contract up there?
I think that it's a transparency and that a lot of questions come from the contract. If people can read it, maybe they answer their own questions.
That may take you guys another 3 days to port over the whole Kimball contract.
It is a big
It's
document.
Is it
kind of big, but I think it's a good idea to have the contract. I mean, it's just another link.
It would be a lot easier for me instead of opening up. I think I have 3 different PDFs for the contract in my files.
Yeah.
The
Is it
bullet
just
points
that
down there at
massive?
the bottom, is there any way to?
Down here you're talking about?
See it.
Oh, let me blow it up a little bit. Like this is basic stuff that I think you'd be able to edit as
Yeah.
conditions change on the ground.
Mhm.
My prediction is most everything will be easy for you to edit. I find we train people and then 6 months goes by and they kind of forget how to do it. So we kind of give you a quick refresher, but some things structurally, if you say, hey, it's just over our head to do X, add something to navigation, then we may just jump in and do it.
You know, Renee, something I never asked you is, will we have the ability on the homepage to add a banner if needed? So like, for instance, Kimball is delayed by a day, that we could just add a banner to the homepage. Would we have that ability to do that?
We probably have to get a plugin, couldn't we, to do pop-ups like that? That might be something that you'd call us to at least get started, and then we can,
But we could look at that now.
Yeah.
And so you could have a pop-up. So when people log on, there's a modal that pops up, or you could have, let's say, a 2-inch banner that would rest between the header and whatever the section is.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be something you could turn on and off if you have something. So let's just say there's a weather alert,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You want
It'd be something like a blog post. Is that a plugin as well?
Well, I mean, it really is just an area. I mean, a blog is really just text, right? So you call it a blog. It's just a matter where you place it. In this case, I would see just an area of text where, again, use the example of there's a road emergency and we need to put something on the homepage that says, I don't know, don't travel or no parking or whatever.
Mhm.
That could be put up there and turned on and off as needed. So that would be, that's actually a good idea just to build that in. I'll just show you this real quick. I have the screen zoomed in. On a mobile version, what you have is called, it's called the hamburger stack in our space. But essentially your navigation, because on a phone, obviously it can't go left or right. So it just stacks this way. So people would toggle down to see those sections. We'll just have to make sure on the mobile version, that's how it'll be. So.
Oh, there's the hours.
Oh, there they are. Right there under government.
Yeah, but I think that's a good suggestion to put them on the homepage.
Yeah, that's no problem.
At the top?
I feel like I just need to get in and play with it, but I
Yeah.
think that the design
I'm
is
sorry, I
good.
missed it, but where would the calendar go? Would it be on one of those 5 buttons?
It's going to be on the homepage underneath.
It should be one of the 5 buttons. You're probably right.
It's going to be right
It's gonna be
there.
right here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh, under events.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
yeah.
This is just something I noticed when it was on the main page and throughout the thing. Is there a way to slow down the pictures from going just a little bit? There should be, right?
Yeah, just adjust the speed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just a little bit, just slow it down a little bit, because it just seems like it's flipping through.
And to go back to that calendar conversation, it is going to be, I think the sample we looked at, it was like the calendar
It's
with
pretty
the
prime.
30 blocks.
Yeah.
So that's what you're going to be able to see.
It's
On
a
the
good
homepage.
calendar, yeah.
Yeah.
So just because it just happened, and it happens all the time, Mark, the Zoom link, what's the fastest way for folks to get to that Zoom link for our meetings?
For on this site here, wherever we want to put it. I guess I didn't know if the Zoom link was carrying over or not carrying over. So yeah.
I think that is something that
Should
regularly,
replace the agenda with it. You guys are getting rid of the agenda one, right?
I thought we were going to replace
we already replaced it.
policy. I mean, there's nothing that says we can't add another icon here. We've got plenty of space.
And maybe it, I don't know if we would just want to call it Zoom link or make it a calendar and Zoom
What-
link,
what-
since they
what do
kind
we
of
call it here?
coincide.
Here we call it just the Zoom.
Zoom instructions.
Zoom.
I would just say Zoom. If we do a button for Zoom, I would say just Zoom.
Okay.
It's a good suggestion because it is difficult to get in there. And then we're also, and I don't think we talked about this, Renee, in the calendar, having the Zoom. Well, would we need the Zoom link then in every single calendar if we have a button for it? I mean, probably not.
I think we could just do a Zoom button with the calendar so they would coincide. So like right underneath where it says township events, maybe do the calendar and then have the Zoom link right underneath as a button.
So we could put the Zoom icon up here
Mhm.
and down next to the calendar. Again, I'm an advocate of having
Accessibility.
accessibility,
Mhm.
right? Because people do not read just don't read.
Well, and they're in a hurry. Everyone's in a hurry.
They're in a hurry, so they want it as convenient as possible.
And everybody's minds work differently with how to search for
That's
something. That's why I think it's great that you can get the same information in a couple different ways on the site. But
Right.
to Suzanne's point, you're only updating it in one spot.
That's right. And I think that the interesting part is, you can revisit this in 3 months or 6 months after the site is live and say, what are the most common experiential challenges we hear from people? Like, I can't find the Zoom link. Well, all right, we need to put it in a spot where it's more visible.
Mm-hmm.
So would you mind just showing us those 5 bullets again, just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page with that?
Which 5 bullets?
The 5
Buttons.
Oh, okay, sure.
We all call them something different.
Okay. So zoning takes us to the zoning section. And again, the things that are on the left here are the same things that are listed here.
I wonder if we should just replace that button with Zoom. We already have zoning at the top.
Yeah.
And if it's just giving you the same information.
The reason why we put it there is because we felt that zoning is such a hot topic with this.
But it has its own tab at the top.
Right.
Why don't we try putting another one in here? So we have 6, because again, we've seen some where they're 8. There's 7, 6, we have lots of space here. So we could.
Then you'll find out afterward whether if you're using that or the other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The analytics will show.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, I think 6 would be okay. I wouldn't want to see any more than that. I think it would be too much.
I agree. You'd have to shrink the icons down.
Personally.
Regarding forms, I haven't seen any on here, but are these forms that are already pre-made that we're providing to you?
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
okay, if there was a form that we wanted, is that something that you could create?
Yeah. So if you'll notice, for example, here's a good example, the public records request form. I mean, they're typically PDFs that you are giving us that people are then going to print out. We did not build.
Okay, so they're not actually.
They're not
any
form
fillable
builds. Right.
forms.
Exactly.
Is that an option to have a fillable form?
Yeah, because the zoning form is.
We would just make it here and then upload it to
Yeah.
replace the
Yeah.
existing.
So there are a couple that are built in here, but any new ones, we could do it. It just wouldn't be in.
Is the
scope of
rental, I didn't look at the rental
Just as an
agreement. Is that-
example, and I don't know if this is something that we would do or
We
not,
haven't added that yet.
but like vacation requests, vacation watches for the police department, and there was discussion on making that.
Yeah.
Is that something that somebody can go on the website, fill it out, and it gets emailed to us, or?
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, like the police report, same thing. You could probably have a fillable PDF and we just upload it.
You wouldn't want a vacation.
Yeah, the
request
township
form on a
rental
public
form.
Website,
It's autofill.
would you?
I mean,
Yeah.
just the form.
A vacation request form?
Well, they're not filling it out and then it's just automatically going to the police department. They would have to email it. So there's a record of the email that coincides with the request.
Yeah, but I think that should be internal and your folks have access to it internally.
So right now, what's the process for vacation request?
Typically, I mean, sometimes people call, but usually they come in and there's, a little form they fill out, and then we enter it into our CAD system.
So
So
what's
it's
the
available to the
difference
officers.
between filling out a zoning permit here and submitting it online? It's the same thing.
Because the public is doing it.
The public's doing the zoning permits, they're filling out the rental agreements. All the forms that are on there are being filled out by the public.
I know, but, well, are you saying for a resident to report they're on vacation?
Yes.
Yeah, when,
Then disregard. I thought it was vacation requests for the officers.
I was with you,
No.
Jack. I thought he was talking about
for us
police.
to watch their.
Yes.
When they're.
I got it. Yes.
I figured there was some sort of disconnect there. I couldn't figure out what it was.
That makes more sense.
That was a wasted 5 minutes.
All right, so you wanted to look at the icons. I'm on the agenda one, which I think we're going to fold into meetings minutes in YouTube, and this will be forms and permits, right? And then we'll add a Zoom as well. So let's just to rehash this.
Zoom should be on as well. But if you're talking about placement, this is just my thoughts.
Mhm.
The Zoom should probably be
The
next
first
to
one.
meeting minutes on YouTube, or the meeting minutes, YouTube, Zoom, and then Kimball Cooks.
I would
That's
replace,
my thought.
I would replace zoning with Zoom.
I would put Zoom the first one.
Yeah, for sure.
So meeting minutes and YouTube. Again, minutes are expandable.
Are you getting all this, Renee? She's typing away.
Renee has lived and breathed this website since we started.
Renee and I can just start like having a glass of wine during our phone calls. Like it's Friday, 6 o'clock. We're fine.
It's going to be beautiful when it's done. But
Hey,
Mark,
beautiful now.
Those quick access buttons, is there a reason that they're not static on the bottom? Do they take up too much real estate?
are you talking about this here? Why they just don't stay on the?
Yeah, like the headers up there, why not put those?
I mean, it is a lot of real estate. I don't know if we could potentially try to add those to the footer. I mean, they actually, I think they are, Jack, now we look at it.
Well, not in the footer, but floating, so that when you're scrolling, they stay on the bottom of the screen.
Well, they stay on the bottom of the screen everywhere except the homepage. The homepage is where they're,
In the middle.
yeah, they're in the middle because generally that's people are going to
See, they're
that.
not visible there either. You gotta
They're
go
at the
down.
bottom. Right.
I like.
Yeah,
that.
they're at the bottom everywhere except on the homepage.
Homepage, they're under the slideshow.
Right. And I'm sorry, Jack, you're saying keep them on the bottom everywhere?
Yeah, see how like the header
I think
stays
he
in
means where
place?
it's in your view, no matter where you
Right.
go on the.
Well, and if you
so
do
like
that,
locked in
if you
place.
have that, say here,
Right.
you're left with,
That's how you're losing too much real estate.
Yeah.
Okay.
and we could do that. Again, I think much of this is just us taking educated guesses, and it's not until you actually take it live that
Mm-hmm.
we'll look and see. But
So what are our next steps? I feel like some of the content probably, I know our department heads want to look at just to keep it current and updated. And I
Yeah.
know we can change that after, but I'd like to facilitate as much change as possible prior to. So, what are next steps for us?
I think there's a few things yet for us to build out.
Okay.
So why don't we finish those items? I'd love to get the calendar function
Yeah.
up there to look at too. And then whenever the point we reach where you want to have an internal review with everybody with the department heads, we could do that.
All right. I can see for our next meeting if the department heads can join us.
Okay, we need to get that on the books. We were gonna wait till after today.
Mhm.
So,
Or is there a way that we can access this to review prior to a meeting to kind of,
That's the question. I asked
Brainstorm.
For today.
so I know as far as the police department current page, it was pretty basic compared to some of our surrounding agencies that have a few more features. And I think that was something that we wanted to possibly incorporate.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's a great foundation. You guys have done a wonderful job.
thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying to balance getting the project to the point where we can get it near launch and making it ultimately what it could be. Part of our job was let's port over the majority of the content from the previous site and then make it beautiful, organize it, and then leave it to you guys to make the updates from a standpoint. So I'm in my head. I don't want to go down the road where every department head is on a call with us and we're change that to this, change that to. Part of it is if it's functional and it's terrific, can we train you to make some of those edits after the fact versus is there anything structurally wrong or incorrect with the site as it is? So that's the balance of where we're at. Just need to think that through a little bit. Why don't we get to the point where we feel like the site is worth going through, and then we can determine if it's a call, if it's, hey, you collect all the information and feed us updates, or what that happens to be.
Well, you guys are here also, Renee. I don't have the notepad that I used on Friday when we were talking. Just to discuss with the board, because I can make a motion at the next meeting, was the one-time charge for the ADA compliance to make sure. So Renee it was under $100, wasn't it? Like 69 or something like that. So one-time fee.
55, I think it was. Hold on.
So it's a one-time fee to ensure that the website will constantly be updated to make sure that we are ADA compliant, because it can change frequently. So that removes that burden from us. So, well, Renee, the expert, is here. Does anybody have any questions about that?
You said it's how much? 65?
55.
55.
55. Okay, thank you.
Where did we land on hosting?
We will do site ground.
Okay, Yeah.
When we're ready to launch.
that's good. So the site will be hosted. I mean, from our perspective, we have different site hosting companies that we like. We're not married to any of them. We just prefer the site to be hosted in a spot where there's security and uptime. SiteGround is one that we've used before. That's been pretty good. I've talked to your current provider, and he had made the recommendation, let's not stay with where it's at now. Person that's maintaining the site, I forget his name.
Brian.
Brian. So SiteGround is our recommendation, which will be,
Which we'll do when we go live.
okay, great.
It's called SiteGround?
SiteGround.
Thank you.
I mean, it used to be that people would house their sites on servers sitting in their own facility, and you had to worry about uptime and power loss. And today, everybody pushes their sites out to server farms that have security and redundancy. Then are there pages or things we want to look at together?
In addition to the how do I, are you also going to have a search button up there? Because that was one of the comments from one of the residents when we first started talking about this.
That is something that I was thinking about too. Thank you.
We will. It'll be something that's going to be tweaked just as we launch.
Okay.
Under zoning, will we show open zoning permits? A permit that has not been given a final inspection.
Probably not. That's a lot of extra work for our staff that we don't have time for.
I have to believe there's a lot of people building decks and sheds and aren't applying for zoning permits, and we're losing money. There's no way for residents to check on it other than come in and talk to Suzanne and see if there is a zoning permit taken out.
Yeah, they can call. They can call Suzanne or Tom Wilson
Okay.
and see. I think that would be an additional record for us to maintain once it gets on the website.
Well, you put it on once and take it off when it's complete. But I understand.
But then you have to keep doing that, like times how many?
There's no way to link it to the actual zoning application that we have. There's no way to link it.
Yeah, I can't imagine that there are a lot of people that are doing that. And not that they're not getting the permits, but that they're questioning the
Well, we don't know.
permit status.
I think all neighbors question, does the neighbor have a permit for a deck?
And that's why they have to have the zoning permit posted in the front windows or on the
Not
door.
anymore. I don't see any posted anywhere. I did when I built my house.
Yeah, I mean, I remember putting my pool in and posting.
Yeah, but not anymore. They are not required to be posted.
Yeah, there.
I don't know if they are required to be posted.
Some contractors like to post them, but it's not a requirement of the township.
Well, thank you. We appreciate being invited out here to show where we're at. Hopefully,
And Monique, I'll send you a recap email.
Thank you.
Is it possible for us to get a link to what you showed us today so that we can all scour through and see if we can find anything else that wasn't discussed today?
yes, and we'll also make sure that the link we send you is also mobile friendly. We should test it out. We'll see if that's possible. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think it looks great. You guys have done an awesome job with it. I've been very impressed with proximity. Renee, you've been great to work with. So thank you for being very patient with me, as I don't know any of these terms that we are using. It looks really great. And I did send you, I added to Dropbox like another 9 photos last night. And I also did forward you an email this morning from Sergeant Schroll with all the updated police
Okay.
photos. So you are good to go on those. I talked to Chief Grossenbaugh this morning, and he said they're hoping to get the officers and his photos to you by the end of this week.
Okay, perfect.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you for helping to keep move this process
Thank you
along.
for coming out.
Yeah, good seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great rest
Thank
of your
you.
week. I appreciate
You
all of
too.
your work.
No problem. Thank you
Take
much.
care.
Take care.
All right. So with that, I think we'll jump right over to police. Do you have anything for the
I
work
have
session?
nothing for the work session.
Are you still gonna hang out with us?
I'll
There's
hang out,
coffee
sure.
over there.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Bahari.
Just a couple quick updates. Go back fence is done.
Oh, good.
Also, I sent out the dimensions and pictures of the marquee to a company out in Parma, Epic Signs and Graphics. They're gonna put something together for the trustees to take a look at. So hopefully by this week, you have something to me.
Digital.
What else? Yeah.
Do we have a rendering of what that would look like? I've had several
He's gonna put it together. That's,
residents complain to me they do not want a digital sign. They like the old sign.
and that was one of the things I discussed with him, is about him being in front of the historic building, about it being historic and stuff. And he's gonna put something together that he thinks everybody will like.
Okay.
So until I see it, like I said, once I get it, I'll show you guys.
Okay. Are you going to get 2 other quotes once we determine which way we're going?
Once I find some companies, yes.
Okay.
But let's see which way we want to go with the drawing first, and then that way we can kind of get quotes from everybody.
Perfect.
The only other update I have, truck 11, it's in the process. They got a tech assigned back to today, so they send updates generally every day once they keep moving with it. That's about all I have for right now.
Okay.
Guys are out doing some concrete, so
You probably need to get to them.
yeah, it'd be nice.
Thank you.
If I could chime back in, just wanted to let everyone know that our flooring project was completed at the end of last week.
Perfect.
So
How does it look? Does it look nice?
looks great. Yeah, we gotta wait another couple days till we can drive vehicles on it to let it finish curing, but it's walkable at this point.
Good.
I talked with the chief too about the possibility of guys maybe doing some painting down in there while you have all those racks and everything moved away from the wall. So
Okay.
he was going to look into that. He had asked about pressure washing the building too, and because these guys are pretty tied up, maybe have him look at getting a price on having that done. And Mike, what'd you end up doing with the concession stand over at Kovac?
We haven't done anything yet. Do we decide we are replacing the shingles then?
You said you were going to take a look at that and determine whether or not the sheathing had to be.
I would do that.
Okay.
Is that ever used by anyone?
Back in the day, I know when I played softball there, it was. I'm not sure what the youth fields. I would assume they used it.
I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody using it other than to shield themselves from the sun.
I think
But
that's probably a raw question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would be the ones that would answer that, because they would have the people run the concession stands if they do. So.
Right.
And I talked with them about, we had a discussion about the bleachers, and when they considered having to contribute to putting rails on to meet they said it's not worth it. That no one barely uses the ones that we talked about, so you can proceed with that.
Perfect.
And then if we're looking at power washing, can we look at power washing all the buildings? We put a program in place in 2017 where we alternated mulch and power washing, and this year was not a mulch year. So this year would have been a power washing year, and next year would be a mulch year.
Done internally?
No,
Or contract?
we've had a company come out and do it.
Absolutely.
Should if I'm calling for the police department building, what buildings would be included?
Admin. I don't think we've ever power washed a service department building. And I don't think we've ever done the fire station, but that's a Chief Grossenbach question.
Historical?
Society's going to be painted. That building needs to be painted. It needs to be
So just
scraped.
basically these two buildings?
Yeah.
Jack, you had mentioned proceed with the about the rails on the,
There's 3 or 4 bleacher stands that exceed the height requirement, the height that would require handrails installed.
and so you want to proceed with what?
They're going to remove those because of the cost involved.
Are we going to scrap those or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be what we do.
They were the older steel ones, and the replacements were about $8,500 a pop. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. If anyone else has any questions for Mike, I'd like to excuse him. I know he wants to get out and work with the guys on the concrete. Probably could use an extra set of hands.
Always.
I don't want to see any handprints in it.
Does anyone else have anything for Mike? Very good. Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate your
thank you.
patience.
Yep.
Look forward to any decisions you have for the website.
You guys have thrown me off every time you said Mike.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Suzanne is not in the room, so I'll proceed right over to you, Trustee Asherle.
I just wanted to cover off that I talked to Chief Grossenbaugh this morning, and the concrete is being done tomorrow for their new training building, and also for the extension they're doing onto that little patio that they'll be doing a fence.
And that's through the association.
Through the association. And the new thermostats are being installed on Friday. So they're going to go from the 4 different zones down to 2, which should help make it more energy efficient.
Very good.
I spoke with the prosecutor last week. The Kimball letter and the forms that we just made a motion for last week to send out, those are not ready yet. There's some concerns with them. I'm actually meeting with Kimball tomorrow to kind of go over some stuff. And I just wanted to discuss with you both also my thoughts on what Martha had mentioned at the last meeting with the ARP funds, possibly hiring Baker, Dubliker, Beck, Wiley, and Matthews to bring them out here to see some of the different options that we have. I was just kind of spitballing ideas in my own mind of things that we could do. And I just thought we would benefit greatly from having them come out here and go over all the options with us.
I like that idea.
I think that when I ran the CARES Act funding, we had a list of proposed ideas before we hired the attorney, and it was that group to look at the ideas and tell us if we were in compliance for rationale for the use of the grant funds. I think it would behoove us to hire them before making a decision as to what we would ideally like to use those funds for. There's information all over the internet about how we can utilize those funds. And actually that legal counsel has worked with OTA over the course of the last year and a half, outlining what uses are viable for the ARPA funding. So I think we need to do our due diligence and do some investigation before we hire anyone and decide what our top, 1, 2, or 3 avenues are before we bring in legal counsel.
Can I just, kind of middle of the ground on both of those? You're going to have to bring someone in sooner rather than later if you piecemeal the money. And that's what I started to hear discussions as to smaller projects rather than 1 or 2 larger projects. That's why I suggested if you're going to need to get some resolutions in line that I sent y'all yesterday from the OTA on the process. I don't think that the firm needs to come out. I agree with Melissa on a list, but what the board needs to decide is whether or not, how you want to proceed with the funding. And there's different processes, different resolutions required depending on if you do quantity or 1 or 2 big, larger infrastructure projects. So that was my reason for my email yesterday.
Thank you, Martha.
You can certainly retain a firm and utilize them when you need them, and at least provide the board the directions that as you're moving down this process.
And I agree with that. I just would like to kind of have an idea as to what we'd like to use the funds for before we retain a firm. And if you want, I can share with you the CARES Act document that I utilized. I had given, the attorney was Beck specifically that I worked with from that group. And I sent him an email, and it was about a 3-page Word document of ideas that we had and costs associated with them. And he went through line by line and said, this could be used for the funding, this cannot. It was very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you could share that with us now. Has it changed since that time? Because I know we've said that it's opened up, what else we can use those funds for. It's changed a couple of different times. Do you know if that's the latest version that you have?
The OTA has everything you need to know.
Right. But I'm saying the one that you are offering to share.
That was the CARES Act fund. It was completely different.
Okay.
Grant.
But just again, to add to that issue, the document that was emailed yesterday, there's a resolution in there. You go to the bottom of that sample resolution that was developed by the firm we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It lists a pretty good idea of different uses. It is quite broad.
Mm-hmm.
And to Melissa's point, you guys can certainly make a list of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion is that you want to make sure that nothing delays your process if you decide to go in a different direction of smaller projects. I have no opinion on what you guys do or don't do, but I'm saying there's a number of resolutions in a sequential order that those resolutions need to occur before you could even vote on appropriating that money for any purpose. And so that's why I sent that out yesterday to look at. And maybe it's just worth a phone call to the firm to see how they're working with other townships. And then even for a retainer of a couple $1,000s, at least you would have a resource from which to move forward. It is a quite different process because of the prevailing wages and the different requirements that this grant requires, and the oversight, the federal government oversight of this funding. I think it would be beneficial for the board to, because I'm not going to do it. So it's you guys' value work. You guys want to do it on your own without that, then that's your, but I'm just trying to provide you with a resource.
Right. And that's kind of the way we did it last time with the CARES Act funding. I think the last board made me the representative for this funding because I was the trustee that was transitioning into 2022. And I have established a relationship with this group. So if you want me to call and see if they can give us pricing on retaining them for the ARPA grant funding, I have no problem doing that as it relates to the resolutions. But I think that we should not be paying for them to tell us how we can use the funding when it's easily accessible online.
Okay.
Mike, who are you going to
What firm, what was the name of the firm?
It's a mouthful.
It's Baker, Dublikar, Dublikar, Beck, Wiley, and Matthews.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, and then just a reminder that the Fire Association and Police Association are hosting the Sandlot on Saturday in the center of town at Bronzers Park. That is all I have.
Is there anything that you would like me to provide or do for that event?
I don't think so, but thank you for offering. I will talk to, it's really going to be you, I think, you and Jess, so we can see if there's anything that we need. I know the Fire Association had talked about water. They would have water, but if something is needed, I can send you both emails if we're going to have anything additional. Thank you for offering.
Yep.
I saw that. Thank you. It looks great.
What's the weather looking like? I haven't checked.
I don't want to say.
Okay.
Please don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
I'll keep it to myself.
Now you know how I feel about the Memorial Day parade. Don't talk about the weather.
There's a reason to smile. Let's just say that, Mike, but it's
Never
still
had a hurricane in Hinckley before.
As long as it's not like this last Saturday.
Okay.
Anything else, Trustee Astral?
That is all I have on my agenda.
Trustee Sweattick?
The only thing I have is I pretty much have a final draft of the fuel monitoring policy, and I'll get that to both of you to take a look at before we discuss it further.
Okay, how's everything going with that?
Other than going with that, Mike,
How's everything
I
going
don't know,
with that?
Trustee Swedick.
I don't understand, but I got a hold of him again. I talked with Mike yesterday. 2 months ago, it was 2 weeks out, and then further and further. And then finally, last week, he said they finally got the equipment in, and we should be Friday at the latest, even though some would get pushed to Monday. So at the end of the day, yesterday, I went over there, and obviously nothing was installed yet. So I contacted him late last night, and he immediately responded. And,
Immediately responded.
He knew I was not happy.
Okay.
And he said, I'm supposed to get an answer today on a hard date that will not change, but we'll see how that goes.
Is he going to provide, we were thinking about this after you left yesterday, are we going to have information on how to use it so that
it should not be any different than the current system?
Okay. Is there going to be codes or how? I'm just curious if when they replace the equipment, our officers come in and, they're fueling cars at least twice a day. When they show up and there's that new equipment, how they're going to utilize the system to fuel the cruiser.
It should be the same.
Okay.
I'll confirm that with him and make sure. And that's all I have.
I have a question for you. Have we heard anything about the door? Because I'm telling you, I'm going to break my key in
Me
it.
too.
Yeah, I
No,
was
he
told
said,
by one of our officers yesterday that ours.
The handle's going to actually fall off from people.
I can't even get in. I can't.
I have to put everything
I had
down
to
to
go
get
to the
in.
front door the other day.
they came out and used the keys that Suzanne provided, and he said they're working fine. If anybody else has a key that's there's still an issue with, they'll come back out. And I've told them there's plenty of other issues yet. So.
And then is that door supposed to be ADA compliant? Well, I thought we were getting the handicap button to go with that door.
No, that was just the door replacement. Handicap was a whole separate deal
Separate deal. Okay.
with a lot more money. Okay.
Very good. Suzanne, you weren't in the room when I was going around. Do you have anything? No. Okay. Martha, do you have anything else to add?
Just that all the renewal information went to the employees yesterday. So September 9th, if anyone has questions, let me know.
Very good. Thank you. I wanted to go over those employee handbook questions that I gave to you so that we can finalize this process. And so the first question was, does the township want a policy regarding name change and pronoun use?
I do not. I don't see a need for that.
Trustee Asherle?
And still, I'm really on the fence on this one. I personally don't see a need for it, but my concerns are that we operate as a government and so many government organizations and so many businesses are changing to it. I just don't want to leave us exposed to anything if we don't.
My instinct is no. I completely understand your point, Monique, on that. I think that, it could be something that in the future would be a necessity. Not saying that it's not now, but we haven't run into anything specific to this issue at this juncture. But it's always possible to put it in at a later date. Do we want to keep moving forward and then come back to this question?
If you both, I'm fine with it. If you both think that we should not, I'm fine with that. And if you both agree, that's the majority anyway. So I would agree to go with you two. I just wanted to, that was something I kind of went back and forth with for a couple days on that question. And
I don't have a problem addressing someone in that manner, but I don't know that we need
it written in
language in there. Yes.
Okay, so we will say no to that.
Ma'am.
I absolutely think you do. I think it opens up, I think it's the right thing to do. And I think it opens up the township to potential exposure down the road, as Monique said. And is it a terrible thing to do? No. Should address it head on, get it done, do it. And it sets a policy for employees on the proper way to handle something like that. And isn't that what you want to do? It's not saying that it will happen, won't happen, hasn't happened, because I actually do know of an instance where it did happen. It wasn't publicized, but it was a life change. So I think it's important to address it head on. It's a big deal to do.
it doesn't seem like it's a big deal to do. And I just, that was my only hesitation of, is that exposing us? Should something happen?
So you should cover the township and assist the employees in the proper procedure in the event that that may or may not occur.
That's fine. Jack, do you agree?
What's the exposure?
Exposure, if you don't have a policy for it and someone acts inappropriately, what do you do?
And
Just my 2 cents. You guys.
well, no, I'm asking. I'm having a discussion that what would somebody, by them not saying they're calling somebody ma'am, or
Because in some ways it could be a form of discrimination.
This puts it into writing that the employees need
follow.
need to follow it. This puts it into writing instead of it being a verbal or an understanding.
Yeah.
So do we
you're
list it?
saying what the township expectation is in much the same way we have anti-discrimination policy.
Well, that was my next
That's what I
question.
would think that
Do
would
we
encompass it,
then
no?
put it into that section, specifically the anti-discrimination section? And are we then going to list it as part of our disciplinary protocols?
I think you're just setting, that's up to who's developing the policy. But I think it's just a normal expectation of how someone may want to be addressed and treated in this day and age. And that there's an expectation that everyone's treated with respect and in the way that they would like to be treated. That's all the policy is saying.
I'm going to jump to number 2, and we can think on it and come back to it. On page 17 of the handbook regarding vacation time, there is language regarding vacation time being accrued based on hours worked. There is also a chart showing vacation time earned based on tenure. Typically, you would not have both of these in the handbook. Are there specific job families that earn time off by hours worked and others that earn based on years of service? If so, we should specify which job families earn them by hours worked and which earn them by years of service.
Which ones are years of service? Is it service, the service department?
Martha, which departments earn by years of service? Vacation?
Earn what?
Vacation
Everyone.
is by years of service, not hours worked.
Correct.
So then we'll just do years of service. My concern is that if we've had both in there and we've got people who feel that they are earning it based on hours worked, that will be a conflict.
It's added in the payroll based on a 40-hour work week. But in the policy manuals and in the collective bargaining agreements, it's outlined as years of service. But everyone accumulates their vacation time every 2 weeks based on their years of service and adding to the it equals, say for example, someone starts out and they're going to get 3.1 hours of vacation after the first year. Well, then when you do the math, it translates to 80 hours annually, and that is how the contracts read.
Well, these are for non-contracted employees. These are non-union.
Now that works the same way for all full-time employees.
So are there,
I say the only issue I can see with it would be part-time.
But that's how it's listed in the current employee manuals also for non-union employees.
are there any employees that are preloaded?
That's by your resolution when you hire them, not contractually in the employee manuals. That's on a case-by-case basis when you hire certain people. You've done that in the past.
Okay, so we would have them remove the chart showing vacation time earned based on tenure. It would be based on hours worked. I'm sorry, the opposite. Is everyone in agreement on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 3, to be considered Full-time is the hours worked required to be 40. Some employees considered 30 hours per week to be, employers consider 30 hours per week to be full-time.
It's not, I thought it was 32 to 40 is full-time. I never heard it was 30. But I could be completely wrong on that. I thought it had to be between 32 and 40. It was full-time.
I'm going to Google it because I remember having this conversation before.
Did you know, Martha?
I would base it on what your full-time equivalent number is that you currently have. If you need to pick a number that's not 40, use your full-time equivalent equation for healthcare. Because you don't want to pick a number a week because you got fire department people who are exceeding that periodically.
Mm-hmm.
So just have it consistent with a policy we already have. You can do no less than.
When we do hiring, at that point, we determine whether someone is full-time or part-time. Can we not use that?
You can use whatever you want. You just asked me a question, I answered it.
We don't do that when we're hiring firemen. We don't say they're full-time or part-time when we're making a motion to hire. And to Martha's point, some of them are working,
Excessive hours.
right? And none of them are getting health benefits. Because it's a part-time department according to the state.
Which means when we hire a firefighter, they're part-time.
The reason we have the full-time equivalent policy in place is that a number has to be determined to enable someone to be eligible for health care. So we establish that and that's why I suggest that your full-time people follow that same number. Because, so for example, I just did fire payroll. We have a couple people in there who've worked in excess of 35. Sometimes we have people who work in excess of 40 hours a week, periodically, on their shift. So you don't want to establish a definition of full-time, part-time that's anything except a year amount cumulatively. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems.
And now that I'm thinking more about it, we have a completely separate handbook for the fire department. So this really doesn't affect them. It may affect Jen, who is admin for the fire department, because she's not considered a part-time fire personnel.
Yeah, but if we already have something like Martha saying that stipulates what full-time is for medical coverage, why not?
It's just a consistent number
Right.
that your policy is abiding
Just
by.
carry over.
That's all.
So what's the number now in that?
I think it's 15, 20, but, I look on the policy. It says, I think that's the number that sticks in my head annually, which translates right around the 35 hours. When Suzanne was hired, though, for example, she has, I think her initial hiring was a minimum of 35 hours a week, Suzanne, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
She's never worked less or less than that, or often always more, but that was the equivalency at that time that Suzanne was hired at. But as I said, if you use that number again, you could run into problems.
And the 15,
with
20
another
is
employee.
29 hours a week.
Monique, I don't remember the number
Okay.
exact in my head.
I'm looking.
So it could be more, I don't know.
Okay.
It's in the policies.
I have it in front of me. I'm just trying to find it. It's an awfully big policy.
It's 1820, I'm sorry. It does translate to 35, it's 1820.
What section is that, Martha? I cannot find it.
It's a separate policy.
Oh. That's why maybe I'm not finding it.
I'll email it to you all.
18 to 20 hours a week.
Pardon me? 1820 annual.
Annually. Okay, that's what I'm trying to.
Have a good vacation, Chris.
Oh, thanks. Website looks terrific.
Thank you. Okay, so how do we want this worded then? Do we want it just to mimic the policy that Martha's going to email to us?
Yeah, I think that would probably be simplest, and that'll just carry over then, right?
Mm-hmm. Consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So Martha, once I get that from you, I will send that language over to her with our responses. Okay, number 4, the handbook indicates that employees are paid bi-monthly. However, it doesn't indicate when the pay dates are. If it is difficult by job family, I can add the specifics for each job family so that this area is a little more detailed. This will save some questions when employees are hired. Martha, do you have any? I feel like when we are doing pays, it changes yearly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. I mean, it used to say something like bi-weekly every Monday, then we changed it bi-weekly Tuesday. When that changed, some employees are paid monthly. And I would just say employees are paid in coordination with their hiring.
Trustees?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any benefits offered to part-time employees?
There aren't, are there?
Well, the electeds are.
Yeah, but this is.
It doesn't really apply to the electeds, right? So.
Are there any other part-time employees that are getting benefits, Martha?
Nope. No, but for example, when Suzanne was a part-time employee, the trustees did approve vacation for her. So I'd just say on a case-by-case basis. Or it has occurred, but that's the only instance where I think prior to that, there might have been some part-time employees who have benefits. It's primarily vacation or days off.
So are we comfortable saying no unless a motion dictates otherwise?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll say motion to hire dictates otherwise. The progressive discipline is very detailed by category. Does the township want it to remain that way? And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to wait on the first question, because I thought if we're going to delve into the pronoun discussion, I think that it should be part of our discipline. I would assume a category 1 offense. There can be some risk in having it this way in the event that you have an employee that does something outside of what is listed. I have some verbiage that would cover all infractions and have the level of discipline be in accordance with the infraction without having to list the infractions by category.
I think more generalized and broad is better than, I think you handcuff yourself sometimes if it's too detailed.
What was that language? I don't think I ever saw that.
Yeah, it's right here. Or her language.
Yeah, the one.
I don't have her language.
Oh.
She's making it just much more broad, where if you look at ours, it's got a category 1 offense.
No, I know. I've seen.
Yeah. And I see both sides of this. As someone who's had to perform disciplinary action, it's been very helpful to have it outlined as to what would fit under a 1 or a 2 or a 3 offense. And it does not limit it to those things. It says right at the beginning that, these are just examples of of misconduct. And they're listed as examples. But I also see the benefit of making it much more broad. But I think that the trustees are generally the ones who are disciplining, and these positions are transient. You could potentially have new board members every 2 years. So I think it helps to have the examples.
I think, and I don't know, maybe this doesn't apply to how you guys are thinking about this, but I think if it's not as detailed, what's important is to have the process detail of, the first step is a verbal warning and it is documented. The second step is a written warning and that is documented, because these positions do change. If it's documented, you can go back and say, okay, 4 months ago, maybe it was a different board member, but 4 months ago you were disciplined on this. So I think it's more important to have the process detailed and not have it so detailed in the category specifically.
But it does say what the penalties are. So for instance, category 2 offense, first infraction is suspension. Second infraction is termination. We would document all of that. And then it says in section 4.5, it outlines what the pre-disciplinary hearing looks like, conference looks like. The next section is the grievance policy. The next section is the grievance procedure. So I think all of that information is outlined.
I'd like to see what the language is that she's offering.
I can request that. And we just updated the fire department's handbook. I can't remember if it was 2020 or 2021, and it's set up this way too. So I think there is benefit to having them correspond. Okay, so with that said, we will have her send over the language. Do we want to go back to question number 1 with regard to pronouns?
I'm okay with including that in the discipline area. Is that fine?
Well, and I think we have a statement at the beginning of how we are an equal opportunity employer.
I'm assuming if we say yes to include these, she's going to do it blanket across wherever it needs to be, correct?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if we say yes, I'm telling her I'd like to, we would like to see it here, for instance, in the disciplinary
Mhm.
as a level. And then we would have to decide, do you want to see that as a level 1 category offense? Level 2, level 3? I would imagine probably level 1 would be a warning.
I would think a
the
level
first
1.
time.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Jack?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So I will get these responses back to her and I will copy you guys on that. Hopefully we can get that finished and finalized here soon. Okay, moving right along. Excuse me. I've had some of the zoning members request to have more proctor training. I've got one person on each board that understands how all of this system works, but they want to better understand this side too, so they can share screens and whatnot. So I was going to go ahead and put together another training. I just wanted to see if you guys were okay with that. Sure.
Yes.
Perfect. And I will keep you updated on when that is in case you know of anyone who wants to attend or if you want to attend. We talked about the ARPA grant funding. Do we want to have any discussion on the trustee letter that I had sent over as it relates to the OHM memorandum, whether it's adopted as a addendum to the current comprehensive plan or as a separate document? I wanted to get your opinions to see if you thought that the trustee letter was needed any changes made to it, or if you thought it shouldn't be adopted with those things.
I'm just trying to pull it up.
In the meantime, I'll just really quickly tell you guys that I looked at grants for the abandoned housing. I spoke with the county planning department and they said the CBG grants can be used for that. I'm going to plan on meeting with them in January of 23 when those grants first come out to see if we can, look at applying for those and potentially working on. I think there's 3 abandoned houses, but one of them we just found out the gentleman was going to be trying to sell. So there are 2 abandoned houses that I will be looking to get grants for removal of. And then also wanted to see if you have anything for the newsletter, can feel free to send it out to me. I did have conversation with Jen over at the fire department with regard to any levy information that she might want to share, as well as touch a truck. And then Lynn and I spoke and she sent me some information on the Kimball opt-out. So that information will be in the newsletter as well.
We might want to hold off on putting that in the newsletter based on what we just found out from,
The opt-out won't change.
The dates will be the same.
Yeah.
I think it's
The opt-out
important
won't
to
change.
advertise those.
just thought I,
And I am doing this month. Yes, the trustee corner. You did last month, I think.
I did, well, technically I did. Yeah, the deadline's the 15th, August 15th, which I just submitted. So yours will be
So I'm September. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just for the public's knowledge, oftentimes, that's why the information may not be pertinent, is because it's
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before happenings.
Melissa, when did you send that? I can't find it.
I sent it with my agenda last Monday, which was the 15th.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Okay. You want to speak specifically to your letter?
Yeah, I just didn't know if you just wanted to scrap it. Do you feel it's a viable document to potentially utilize with the memorandum and the survey results? And like I said, I don't, regardless of how we proceed, do we want this letter to accompany those two documents? And if so, what changes do you want to make? And if you haven't looked at it recently, we certainly don't have to discuss it today, but maybe just,
yeah, let me make a note of it and I will be better versed on it for our next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. And I just have one more item. I'm not going to be able to do work sessions anymore going into September at this time on this day.
Do you need to change the day or the time?
I won't be able to do them during the day. They would have to be after the 5 o'clock hour.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with making them after 5. I see so much benefit to that. I mean, we've been here since before 9:30 and we're still covering off on a lot of stuff. So, I mean, I don't, even if we move it to once a month instead of twice a month, what are your thoughts on that?
I still see value in them as well. I'm okay with the time change.
I'm okay with doing it in the evening and if that's what you need to do.
I appreciate that. I don't know for sure what the schedule will look like for me as my schedule changes and adopts. So I will have to get back to you as far as timing, but I just won't be able to do them at the Tuesday morning.
Okay. And I would be fine also, with our, as we're liaisons, just speaking to our department heads before the work session so they don't have to be here. Maybe one-offs, they would have to be here for certain things. But I know that was something they expressed at the beginning of the year when we talked about doing work sessions is could we just not have them in the evening? So if we wanted to touch base with them.
Very good. So we will.
And I'm sorry, you said, so this would be your last work session.
No, I could do, I believe it's the 30th.
That's not a scheduled work session though, right?
It's not.
This is the second work session of the month, so there is no meeting next week.
So the first one that would be effective.
There's a zoning commission work session.
Right. So the first one that would be effective would be the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got some time. I'll look at my schedule and update you accordingly.
Okay, so then I believe that is the day that we had Bethany Dentler coming out, the 13th. Yes.
Let me see if I can finagle that one, and that may be the last one at that time, because I don't want to have to reschedule Bethany.
Well, and that would also be something, just throwing this out here, if this would be easier for you also, is maybe if we can all think about, based off of everything that Bethany sent to us, if we can all discuss it at the next trustee meeting, because from what I understood with that next meeting with Bethany, we wanted to present her with what we as a board kind of came to a decision on with what we want to do moving forward. So even if you couldn't be at that one, we could agree to it at our meeting on the 6th.
Do you have anything yet that you've put together as far as?
Not anything that I'm ready to discuss right now, but if we,
because I was going to say you could even email it to us just so we can have our questions lined up for that meeting.
Okay. Okay, if I just send an email and we don't go back and forth with it, that would be okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
It's always helpful to.
So that way we're kind of prepped for it for the next meeting.
That's
So
what
we
we've
can
always
have
done.
open conversation. And then that way, if you cannot attend that meeting, we can meet with Bethany and present to her what we will decide on September 6th.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Okay.
So I've always worked as a trustee is to have open communication by email with those types of things, just so we can get our hands on it and peruse it and coordinate our questions.
Perfect.
All right, anybody from the audience have anything? No? All right, I would like to make a motion to adjourn at 11:36 a.m.
Second.
Seconded by Astral. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, I can still get to meet the teacher. The afternoon round.
That's where the chief
Longer
was.
live.
That's where the chief said.